During the Battle of the Bulge, General Otto von Manchufel seized tens of thousands of gallons of Allied fuel. A miraculous victory. But when he realized how little it changed the outcome, he confessed to his aides, "We are fighting an ocean of gasoline." The moment marked Germany's grim realization of inevitable defeat. In December 17, 1944, Ardennes Forest. A pale winter dawn struggles through the mist. The air is frozen, quiet, until a low rumble breaks the silence. Engines, dozens of them. Hidden among the trees, German panzer divisions wait for the signal to move. Inside a small command vehicle, General Otto von Manchufel studies his map. His gloved finger traces a red line through the American front. Every second matters now. This is Operation Wacht am Rhein, Hitler's last gamble in the West. The plan is bold. Strike through the Ardennes, cross the Meuse River, capture Antwerp, and split the Allied armies in two. On paper, it looks brilliant. In reality, it's a desperate move. The German war machine is running dry, not out of bullets, not out of men, but out of fuel. Their powerful Tiger tanks, symbols of German strength, can barely move. Every drop of gasoline is worth more than gold. Manchufel knows this better than anyone. Then, as the first artillery shells explode through the morning fog, the offensive begins. The forest shakes. American lines collapse under the surprise attack. Snow and smoke mix into chaos. German tanks surge forward, crushing through wrecked jeeps and burning trucks. For a moment, it looks like the impossible is happening. The Germans are pushing the Allies back. Hours later, near Stavelot, a German recon unit stumbles on something unbelievable. Behind a small ridge, hidden by the snow, they find a massive Allied fuel depot. Rows of barrels, trucks full of gasoline, tens of thousands of gallons just waiting. When Manchufel arrives, the air smells of smoke and diesel. His officers rush toward him, faces bright with hope. "General, it's real. We've captured it. All of it." For the first time in days, Manchufel smiles. Feels like victory. He can already see his tanks roaring forward again, cutting through the enemy, reaching the Meuse. Maybe this war isn't over yet. But deep inside, he knows the truth. The fuel will run out. The skies belong to the Allies now, and their bombers are never far. As the horizon glows orange from distant air raids, Manchufel stares at the barrels. The prize that could save them or doom them. Quietly, he whispers a line his aides will remember. "We are fighting an ocean of gasoline." His men don't hear him. They're too busy refueling, too busy believing. Tomorrow they'll learn what belief costs. December 19, 1944, near Stoumont, Belgium. The Ardennes lies buried under a sheet of ice and fog. It isn't the gentle kind of fog that drifts and fades. It's thick, suffocating. It presses down on everything. The trees, the fields, even the men who move through it. Somewhere beyond the mist, engines growl. Low, steady, alive. It's the sound of German armor moving forward. Panthers, Tiger IIs, steel monsters crawling through the cold, their treads grinding over frozen roads and shattered stone. Inside a mud-streaked command half-track rides General Otto von Manchufel, the man tasked with turning Hitler's final gamble into victory. Behind his armored spearhead follow a line of fuel trucks, not German but American, captured just 2 days before. The white letters U.S. Army are still visible on their sides, ghostly through the frost. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Germany's finest tanks, fueled by their enemy. For now, the men are in good spirits. They laugh, they shout, they wave from their hatches. The impossible seems to be happening. The offensive, once dismissed as madness, has torn deep into Allied lines. Towns have fallen, bridges taken, prisoners captured by the hundreds. For a fleeting moment, the road to the Meuse River, and beyond it, Antwerp, seems open. But Manchufel knows the truth his men don't want to face. Their victory runs not on momentum, but on fuel. And every kilometer brings them closer to empty. He leans toward his aide, Colonel von Bohm, his voice quiet beneath the hum of the engine. "How much fuel remains for the lead column?" Bohm checks his papers. Enough for perhaps another 50 kilometers, sir. Manchufel nods. He says nothing. 50 kilometers. That's not a plan. That's a prayer. Still, the column presses on. The snow thickens. The wind howls through the trees. The Americans are no longer running, they're fighting. At a crossroads near La Glise, a lone Sherman tank emerges from the fog. Outnumbered, outgunned, but defiant. It fires again and again, its shots echoing through the valley. The German advance falters. Then the artillery begins. Shells crash into the road. Trucks burst apart in flame. One shell hits a captured fuel truck. The explosion tears the air apart. A towering fireball lights up the morning fog, burning so bright it stains the clouds red. Men dive for cover. Some scream. Others just watch in silence, the flames reflecting in their eyes. Their miracle is burning before them. Manchufel steps down from his vehicle. The heat hits him like a wall. He watches the fuel, their lifeline, go up in fire and smoke. For a long moment he doesn't move. There's nothing to say. That night, in a farmhouse turned command post, he writes his report to high command. His tone is calm, precise, the language of a soldier doing his duty. But between the lines it reads like confession. Enemy fuel stocks captured and consumed. Situation remains tactically favorable, but unsustainable. He hesitates, then adds a final note. Further progress without refueling impossible beyond 48 hours. He sets down the pen. The ink freezes on the page. Outside, the snow falls quietly. In the barns and stables, his men huddle around small fires, burning scraps of wood and furniture to keep warm. They joke, they sing, they talk about home. But outside, the engines are silent. And they all know what that means. Because once the panzers stop, they may never move again. Far above, hidden beyond the clouds, another sound grows. The deep, distant roar of engines, hundreds of them. Allied bombers circling, waiting for the fog to lift. When it does, the illusion of victory will lift with it. And the truth, cold, heavy, merciless, will finally be seen. The Battle of the Bulge is about to turn. December 21st, 1944, near Celles, Belgium. The fog that had blanketed the Ardennes for days is gone. In its place, a cold, cloudless sky stretches overhead, too clear, too bright. And for the Germans below, that clarity is a curse. General Otto von Manchufel knows it the moment he looks up. The cover that had shielded his tanks is gone. The Allied air power, silent for days, will return with a vengeance. At first, there is only a faint hum. Then it builds, a rising metallic whine that cuts through the winter air. Men look up, shielding their eyes. Some recognize the sound instantly. P-47 Thunderbolts. They come in tight formation, sunlight flashing off their wings like blades of glass. On the ground, panic spreads. Drivers swerve into ditches. Infantry dive under trees, pressing themselves into the frozen earth. Tank crews abandon their hatches, covering their heads as the sky begins to scream. The first wave dives. Rockets whistle. Bombs fall. The snow-covered fields erupt into fire. The mighty German columns that just days earlier had thundered across Belgium now burn in the open. Fuel trucks explode one after another, sending black pillars of smoke twisting toward the pale sky. The same captured American gasoline that once fueled their advance now feeds their destruction. From a shallow command trench, Manchufel watches through shaking binoculars. The air smells of oil, smoke, and melted snow. Around him, aides shout fragmented reports. Communications cut off. Fuel convoys destroyed. Panzer units scattered. He lowers the glasses slowly. The forest is silent except for distant explosions and the hiss of burning metal. Everywhere he looks, wrecked vehicles, wounded soldiers, lifeless machines. An aide turns to him. General, orders? For a moment, Manchufel doesn't answer. He looks at the horizon. A landscape littered with the remains of his army's last great hope. Finally, he speaks softly, almost to himself. They have everything, he says. The skies, the factories, the fuel. A long pause. We are fighting an ocean of gasoline. The words hang in the frozen air. No one replies. There is nothing to say. He continues, voice flat but calm. You cannot win a modern war on courage alone. Not anymore. His eyes fall on the charred shell of a Panther tank nearby. Its armor glints in the firelight. Look at it, he murmurs. A masterpiece of engineering. But without fuel. Just a monument to arrogance. A courier bursts through the smoke, panting. General, Allied armor spotted near Hatan. We have no reserves left to counter.
No reserves.
No fuel.
No escape.
For the first time, Manchufel feels something colder than defeat. Clarity. The kind of clarity that strips away pride and leaves only truth. He knows what Berlin will demand. Hold the line, never retreat. But looking around, he sees the cost of those words written in blood and snow. He turns to his staff. Faces gray with exhaustion and disbelief. Pull back, he says quietly. Save who you can. As night falls, the general who once dreamed of breaking the Allies now leads a retreat through the snow. Engines cough. Men limp beside their vehicles. Behind them, the burning wrecks light up the horizon. Orange against the black winter sky. The Battle of the Bulge is not yet finished. But its ending has already been decided. And in the cold silence that follows, one question lingers. When a soldier finally understands the war is lost, what keeps him fighting? December 24th, 1944, near Bastogne, Belgium. Snow drifts gently through the ruined forests of the Ardennes. Where once the roar of German panzers shook the earth, now only the wind moves, whispering through shattered trees and frozen wreckage. What began as Hitler's final gamble has become a quiet, bitter retreat. Columns of weary German soldiers move eastward, trudging through knee-deep snow. Their faces are gray with frostbite, their uniforms stiff with ice and smoke. Some carry rifles, others carry nothing at all, just the weight of exhaustion, and a hope so thin it barely survives the cold. At the rear of the retreat rides General Otto von Manchufel, once the architect of the Ardennes assault. His command vehicle crawls forward along a narrow, frozen road. His uniform, once pressed and perfect, is now dusted with frost. His voice, rough and hollow, is rarely heard. He doesn't need to speak. His men already understand. The silence between them says everything. Behind them, the thunder of American artillery rolls closer. A steady drumbeat of inevitability. The bulge that had once driven a wedge into the Allied front is shrinking, mile by mile. What had begun as a daring offensive has become a desperate withdrawal. Every few kilometers, Manchufel orders his men to stop, to burn what cannot be saved. Abandoned tanks, trucks, guns, anything that still carries even a drop of fuel. The sky fills with pillars of black smoke, rising like funeral pyres into the frozen air. It's a grim ritual, efficient, merciless, necessary. Each fire marks another step away from the dream that once drove them forward. As one convoy halts, a young officer, barely 20, approaches the general. General? He asks quietly, his breath clouding in the air. Was it all for nothing? Manchufel studies him. A boy too young to remember the beginning of this war, yet old enough to see its end. For a long time he says nothing. Then, he points toward the horizon, where the distant glow of artillery flickers red against the clouds. For a moment, he says, his voice low, we made them fear us again. He pauses, then adds softly, that was not for nothing, but fear is not victory. The young officer nods, though the meaning seems to slip past him. Few among them truly grasp it. Night falls, the wind sharpens, and through the darkness, something unexpected drifts across the frozen landscape. Music. It's faint at first, carried through the static of open radio frequencies. American voices singing softly. Silent night. The melody reaches the German lines, echoing among the trees. Men stop what they're doing. Some hum along quietly. Others stare into the fire. A few turn away to hide tears that freeze on their cheeks. For a fleeting moment, the war feels distant. Two armies, both freezing, both bleeding, and somehow both singing the same song. Manchufel sits beside a small fire inside a ruined farmhouse. The flames barely fight off the cold. He writes in his field journal, the paper trembling beneath his hand. No longer reports of victories or orders, only names. Names of officers lost, towns abandoned, fuel depots destroyed. He writes until the ink freezes in his pen. The last line on the page reads, "Without fuel we cannot move. Without hope we cannot stand." He closes the book slowly. Outside, the wind howls through broken shutters, carrying the sound of distant gunfire. A courier arrives soon after, bringing new orders from Berlin. Continue the attack. Manchufel reads the message once, then, without a word, holds it to the fire. The paper curls, blackens, and turns to ash. There will be no more attacks, only survival. When dawn breaks on December 26th, the remnants of Germany's proud panzer divisions begin their slow retreat eastward. Behind them lie hundreds of wrecked tanks, once symbols of power, now silent monuments to a fading empire's last illusion. Manchufel watches the smoke rise one final time above the Ardennes Forest. The Battle of the Bulge is over. But for him, the war ended days earlier. The moment he understood that no general, no courage, no strategy could stand against an enemy with endless skies and an ocean of gasoline. He climbs back into his vehicle. The engine coughs, sputters, and finally turns over. "Home," he says softly, "if there's anything left of it." The convoy rolls on, vanishing into the snow. Behind them, the fires of the Ardennes fade into silence. A silence that marks not just the end of a battle, but the dying breath of a war that had already lost its soul.